Hello and welcome to This Week at the Movies. My name is Matt,
And I'm Eric.
and this week we're burning. Not like Burning Man in the desert, although at times I did feel like Edward Woodward in The Wicker Man watching this film. Like it would have been more pleasant to just be set on fire. And that is because we are talking about Evil Dead Burn. This is the latest film in a franchise that is now, and this one hurt, 44 years old. This is the sixth film, fourth different director on this one. First one since Evil Dead Rise in 2023. Evil Dead Rise kind of rebooted it after 10 years. This one comes from Sebastian Vanchek. They don't really tell you much about the plot in the trailers, and it turns out that's because there really isn't a plot. Loosely, this is about a family that has some kind of connection to the Necronomicon and a secret society, and bad things happen to them. Not really any actors, probably a couple people you'll be like, hey, that looks vaguely familiar, but not really any people that you're going to be super familiar with. But that's okay because there are not any characters you're going to remember or care about from this film either. I'm just going to say, you probably guessed, this one's a thumbs down for me. It has continued a trend. I have really not been on this. Last summer and last year, horror movies I thought were the jam. Like the best movies we got were horror movies. It was around this time of year we were getting ready to have Weapons. We had Sinners. We had all the. We've had some major horror releases this summer. I have not vibed with any of them. This is the one I vibed with the least, which is fair to say. Eric, how are you feeling about being set on fire?
Very mixed. I appreciated a lot more about this movie, I think, than you did. I'm going to go right off the top. I'm going to say I'm going to give this one thumb up. So here's the thing. If I just look at what's in the movie and strip away everything I know about the Evil Dead, this is an interesting movie about flawed people with imaginative direction that's a little show-offy, like, look what I can do with a camera, but it's hard work. The problems with the movie for me really come in when you start to think, I've seen any other movie before. So,
and we're going to call this damning with faint praise. That's how I'm going to describe this.
This
episode. I was more mixed than you. One thumb up. It starts to be a problem if you've ever seen a movie in your life.
No, but I think you know what I mean. Like, it's funny you mentioned that the cast is a bunch of people who look vaguely like you've seen them before, and it's true. Like when you look up the actors, like Celia Yakub and Errol Shand, they look like other actors. Like she doesn't look a lot like Melissa Barrera, but she looks just enough like her to make you like think about her. The one who actually has like a name that I recognize is Hunter Doohan, who plays an infuriating character in this.
There's only one.
Dude, that is it too soon? I guess I don't know. Spoiler talk. I don't know. If we ever get like a bigger audience, then I'll worry more about spoilers. But the dude like crawling away while his girlfriend is dying instead of taking the opportunity.
Hunter Doohan might actually be the one that people. I don't watch Wednesday, but that's a popular TV series, and he's been in 16 episodes. So I'm going to go ahead and say he's probably
recognizable.
Well, and I'm now recognizing he was the son in Your Honor, which is another show that I wasn't wild about, and his character wasn't incredible, but all these things are tracking for me. So we'll say, I guess I'll give it that there was one.
Yeah, there's one actor that is like, yeah. And it honestly was enough that I was kind of like, when they cast no-name people, it's kind of easier for you to like eject your brain and be like, these are the characters. But then you get a guy who's like very, I don't know. Anyways, so all right. Here's the thing in a nutshell. If you've seen any other Evil Dead movie, then you're kind of set up for a certain kind of entertainment. And this one does not go that direction. And that kind of entertainment, as I was kind of briefly describing to a friend last night, is the evil creeps into like real world situations that they touch on, like fractured relationships, drug abuse, things like that. The evil kind of seeps in because people are vulnerable. And then the Deadites kind of manipulate people, whether you're talking about the 2013 remake, Evil Dead, the original, Evil Dead 2 is all just on Bruce Campbell. So it's different like that one in Army of Darkness. But the Deadites kind of mess with people's heads, but there is always a switch point where it's like, haha, we're winning. We actually don't care about any of you. We're just wild. And it's like, no matter what the context is, Evil Dead Rise, eventually the Deadites are all like, you guys are going to be dead. It doesn't matter. Blah, and they go crazy. That never happens in this movie. It stays really grounded and in the relationships of the family to the point that I'm never 100% sure if the Deadites have completely overtaken the people or if they're going off of this like seed of truth in their half with the people. The best Deadite actor in this movie is not the best Deadite actor in any Evil Dead movie, but it's Thea playing Lucy Ann, the girlfriend, who has that like vibe. Like she knows how like a Deadite is supposed to tease people and taunt people and do things like that. Errol Shand as Edgar, like this like eviler like guy, he's doing things that you would see in an Evil Dead movie, but he's a different kind of monster. So it's jarring. This is a movie that tries to play with the same mythology, but all of the things are acting different. And so you have to either immediately, because kind of like you said, I do think they build the characters and they do try to make you care about them. I just think they do it too quickly and they rely on the fact that you've seen this situation before. So they think, oh, if we overdo it, then we're just going to be doing the same movie over again. Because pretty simple, wife stuck in a family because she got married to a boyfriend who turned out to be abusive. And so she's tied in and they're very toxic. And you're watching her kind of come into her own the way every Evil Dead movie has someone who tries to turn into like a champion. The thing is, everything about being an Evil Dead movie kind of misses the mark in a low point. Like you don't have Jane Levy's Mia. They have references to her. The girlfriend is wearing similar shoes and like a dress to her. But like the way that she ends up like ripping her own arm off and chainsawing a thing in the face because she's like, you know, whatever, like they never really rise to that kind of height of screw it. I will do anything to survive and I'm going to rip away my past and just be who I need to be. They sort of have that, but it doesn't go as far as other movies. And so like this movie suffers again by being compared to another movie. So I'm rambling a bit. I'm not sure if I'm in the same point that I started with or whatever, but in a nutshell, I think again, if you're just looking for something to watch, you could do way worse. Like if you're looking for this kind of horror, huge grain of salt. Like with the Evil Dead franchise, you sort of have to already know whether you like it or not. Like, if you aren't into like gore, what are you doing? Like, don't touch this movie with like a 10-foot pole. You look like you have something to say.
Well, I'll go after you. Finish.
So yeah, I guess to wrap it up, I feel like there's a solid enough continuation, but I just have little weird irritations. I could do this movie scene by scene. Like every time they're doing the ghost going through the trees, but it's in the air, it's so obviously a drone that it feels false. But then they absolutely nail it when she starts reading the words from the Necronomicon and they're actually like carrying and blowing like through the wood. Performances wise, I was sold enough on the performances. It's just the way this doesn't like fit tonally. It doesn't feel, it feels like the director is having a lot of fun and no one else is. And that's the hard part, is even with the meanest, like darkest horror movie, like or Evil Dead 2013, the anything you hear about like the behind the scenes, everybody had a blast making that movie. And if you can like kind of get into it, and there's always this two-sided thing where you see an actor performing themselves and then you see the actor performing a deadite, and you can kind of tell the actor is having a lot of fun with it. There's like this way to sort of eject and have fun with the movie. I don't think you get that with this movie. I think they missed a little bit of the heart of what makes these movies fun. So go to it for the processing trauma, seeing the person become like a hero. Go to it to get the imaginative camera movements, you know, go to it to get some things that are technically good for the movie as it is. Just be aware you've seen the person who's like, I'm going to overcome my trauma 1,000 times before. And this doesn't do it particularly better than any other movie that's done it. And then you've seen a ton of Evil Dead movies before. So you've seen everything else, except they stab a dog in the face. I didn't appreciate that. Anyways. Also, if you're going to bring a dog back as a deadite, it has to talk and be campy. You can't just have it be like growly. Like like in Evil Dead 2, I know they're not going for Evil Dead 2, but in Evil Dead 2, you've got like a dead deer head, like ha 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 ha, like on the wall. Okay. If you're going to bring a dog back as a deadite, you have to do something imaginative with it instead of have it just be a guard dog. Like, anyways. All right. Rant over. Go ahead.
So I will say, you know, there are ways that they try to do nods to being, you know, part of Evil Dead. You have the audio recording, Book of the Dead, the drawing, some of the way that the camera moves at the beginning where you're tracking evil up along the ground, something that we've seen for 44 years. But, you know, you talk about you go into the Evil Dead movies with a certain conception. I do as well, and that's why two of the films were outliers. This one, the biggest of outliers, and I think that's because if you have ever seen a Sam Raimi film, you know that there is a sense of camp and a sense of lightheartedness. And Evil Dead Rise, which was 3 years ago, even though it was fairly graphic, there was more of balance, a sense of personality and a little bit of a sense of camp to offset it. And I really liked that film.
Yeah, me too.
This one, at no point in time, they're like, you know, and God bless him, Sebastian Vanacek may have looked at it and said, camp is not something I can do. And not everyone can do it.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, that has a certain tone that is bereft in this film, and that is probably what it is unsufferable. These are dour, unlikable, evil people before the evil of the Evil Dead touches them. When you understand, you know, what they're going on with. I did go look. I thought his girlfriend Taya, I didn't even bother to remember that character name because it's so terrible.
Yeah,
she's actually in a Netflix. I was like, she looked vaguely familiar. She's in a Netflix streaming show that I watch called The Night Age, and I was like, oh yeah. I will say I did actually like. I don't know how to pronounce the one that played Alice. I'm sure.
Yeah.
French name.
She's great.
She was probably the one performance that I picked. And like, there is a certain type of horror that is very graphic and very visceral. And if that's your thing, this will work. That is not why I go to movies. You know, that was one of my big turnoffs during the era where we were trapped in what they lovingly referred to as torture porn. I like the camp. I like the comedy, you know, and maybe it's because my formative years, I grew up with Scream and I watched the Evil Dead movies in college, and even Sam Raimi's movie earlier this year, Send Help. There are some graphic sequences in that, but there is a different kind of tone. There is a different kind of world building, and that was completely missing for me in this. I was looking at my watch every 15 minutes, regretting that the movie was 110 minutes, because I'm like, this has been completely savage from the jump, including a non sequitur opening sequence, which was both highly predictable, highly graphic, and never
the
really,
fisherman.
never really has any explication or tie back. I assume they're just trying to say that's the lake that you see at the end of Rise, and that
Right. Am I supposed to
but
know who
why
that
and
girl was?
how did they know that they were going to be able to drag themselves in and have this weird intersection with this dude? And you see the accident, and then it winds back to butts grinding in the
Yes.
club, and an introduction of these four characters who you don't really get to know, but you're supposed to feel. I didn't even realize they were brothers until it got to the damn funeral. I don't think you picked that up. And I didn't realize they were married until we got to the damn funeral.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you necessarily picked that up, other than the girlfriend says we should never get married. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe they are. And I, just.
I gotta tell you before I forget, I did like almost snort in the theater at one time when everyone else was dead quiet, and I felt really embarrassed because there is a joke that you like might or might not miss. A lot of people are quicker than me, so I think people got into it but maybe weren't comfortable with it. But so there's this guy who has blown his head out 3 times and is crawling in, and for the first time in any Evil Dead movie, because again, this is super weird with the rules and lore, this woman is not actually turning evil yet. She's just kind of delusional because she's losing her family, and she gets convinced to let him through the window, and she makes out with him. And
Yeah.
it is exactly what you would think from an Evil Dead movie. It's super gross and bloody, and his tongue is all over her. But her response is, "You haven't kissed me like that in years." Which, after 2 seconds of thinking, I'm like, that's how he kissed her, like, as a human, like, a few years ago? Like, oh, gosh. And I was like,
and they're just not
well, that's the thing. We really don't get to know the family before the horror kicks in. And that's kind of the missing fun to me of like watching an actor play a certain type of character. Because like the dad is the first one who's really being like awful and toxic. And I'm assuming because of the abuse history in the family that he was that evil and toxic before. Again, that's them kind of assuming you can follow the plot and not really fleshing out the characters. But yeah, like he's infected as soon as he goes to say goodbye to his son. So it's sort of, I don't know. But Send Help, I'm glad you mentioned Send Help, because that is the thing. Sam Raimi with Drag Me to Hell and Send Help and movies like that, he doesn't care about making things just CGI to get the point across and throw a bunch of snot in someone's mouth and blood in someone's mouth, because he understands that like you're going to appreciate the idea of it. It doesn't have to look real. It just has to be like fun. Like he's just there to like entertain. These are the people who are like, it's funny because you mentioned torture porn, and Evil Dead is always separated from torture porn to me because it always makes me think more of the 80s competition of special effects stuff that people did.
And the original
But
Evil
this
Dead
didn't. I agree
practically a student film. 1981,
Yeah.
Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell were just friends. They shot in a cabin in the woods. A lot of the kind of touches that have remained, like the filming on the ground, are almost Spielberg in Jaws-esque, when it's like, hey, we didn't have an option. We were just trying to think of how could we make it cool. And this is probably a good time to talk about where you have them ranked in franchise. So we had Evil Dead in 81, Evil Dead 2 in 87, Army of Darkness in 92. Those are the Sam Raimi. Kind of a long break. They did have a Starz TV show that was Ash versus the Evil Dead, but then Eddie Alvarez takes over in 2013 and makes a movie where, some people are big fans. I thought that one tonally doesn't match. So I didn't need to see any more. And then a decade after that, you see Evil Dead Rise, and I was very skeptical of that. But that movie I actually decently enjoyed. And then now we have Evil Dead Burn. They're supposedly working on another installment, right? Yeah. God.
2028.
it's just, if they're going to continue to change directors and things, you're probably going to get different things.
Yeah,
I feel like the last three, if you said nothing else, have strayed pretty far from what the original idea and template
yeah.
was. And yes, we're going to get a completely another. Oh, and Wrath is supposed to be about a French woman trapped in an abusive marriage whose husband
Sam,
refused to believe her claims. That seems like
I
a
don't.
misstep considering what the plot of this one is.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, I mean, it's set in the '70s, so I think they're gonna do kind of like a gritty kind of like thing. I don't. Every what they're doing with the Evil Dead franchise that they said they were going to do, starting with the 2013 Evil Dead, is take young aspiring directors, give them a chance to write a script, and if they like the script, give them a chance to cut their teeth making a movie that gets a lot of attention. And so they're not. The thing is, the Evil Dead 2013, the idea was, why are we going to remake a classic movie? Well, I'm going to do a different take on it. But the thing is, since then, they have retroactively used Army of Darkness's 3 Necronomicons to spiel out a lore through Ash and the Evil Dead that kind of connects everything. And I don't need that. Just do the disconnected movies.
Or do your own thing. It's interesting. Evil Dead Wrath, the director of that, did a movie called Last Stop in Yuma County, which is like a weird attempt to rip off the tone of No Country for Old Men. So I don't know how that's going to translate. I've actually seen the movie out. So what is your? I have my ranking of where I would put them, but I'm curious what your.
So ours is definitely going to be different. Could you leave that up just for a second, because I don't want to miss one.
You think it's going to be different?
I'm pretty sure. So it is going to be Evil Dead 2013, Evil Dead 2, The Evil Dead, Evil Dead Rise, and then Army of Darkness and Evil Dead Burn are probably very close, because for everything that's amazing about Army of Darkness, it's still a different kind of entertainment completely to have to get into. And I think Evil Dead Burn was good enough. And also personally, like the thing that I don't talk about, the subjective side of things, dealing with the toxicity of anger and things like that, and the threats of abuse and stuff like that. There's just something that was like really touched me about the way that that was written and explored in a very like uncomfortable way that still was like, okay. And so like, if I can still call it art, like there's a certain amount that I have to give it. So that's my ranking.
Okay. So you did Evil Dead 13, 2, 1, Rise, and then Army of Darkness and Burn.
Yeah. If I had to nudge one above, I'd put Army of Darkness above, because rewatching Evil Dead Burn sounds like a chore.
Well, I mean, certainly not going to be lighthearted. So for me, I actually have Evil Dead 2 as my top. Evil Dead, The Evil Dead, and Evil Dead 2 are almost the same movie. Evil Dead 2 just has some better production graphics, and I actually think the jokes land a little bit better.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of what's always separated them for me. My number 2 would be Evil Dead Rise, which I thought was incredibly clever and surprising. That was actually one of my favorite horror movies the year that it was released. And then number 3 for me is probably going to cause you some consternation.
Army of Darkness.
It's Army of Darkness.
For sure.
And I will just be honest, like, I love Bruce Campbell, and I love comedic Bruce Campbell. One of my favorite one-season TV series, which I waited forever until it came onto DVD and purchased, is The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., which is a strange serial Western in which he is the hero, Briscoe County Jr. I just have always loved him. And then I have The Evil Dead. And I like those 4 movies. Those 4 movies all have roughly similar scores. I like them. I did not care at all for Evil Dead 2013. So
Oh, well,
basically,
right, right, right.
the first four that I listed, I have them all ranked 3.5 stars, which is
Okay. Yeah.
for me, who's not exactly giving stars away, that's not too bad. Evil Dead 2013, you can miss me with that. I didn't appreciate the tone. I did not like it. I have struggled at times with some of Fede Alvarez's films. I don't know if it's tonally a thing I love. Romulus I thought was okay. That's about the only one I think that I've seen that he's done that.
That's him
that was
toned
okay.
down pretty.
Yeah, and that was, and it's a franchise that maybe I like a little bit better. I'm trying to think what other. Yeah, I didn't care for Don't Breathe.
Don't Breathe.
I've
That's like
watched
his main things.
The Apple Show Calls. He did The Girl with the Spider's Web.
He did that?
Yeah, he did the one with Claire Foy stepping into the role that was the second American adaptation. I did not, and so I have them relatively. I'm looking. Don't Breathe. I really didn't like. I guess I only gave that 1 star. But Evil Dead was not good. But I would give it. I would have an easier time rewatching it than Evil Dead Burn.
Sure.
Those two kind of go in a direction that I'm not looking for. And I think it's totally a me and a style thing. And it's Evil Dead is a broad enough swath at this point in time with 4 different filmmakers that you have to find the tone. I wouldn't say Evil Dead Rise matches the tone of Sam Raimi because what could, but it came closer to me and it had enough interesting visual things. And I like the claustrophobia being trapped in that building and some of the things with the kids and, having the 2 sisters going against each other. It captivated me in a way that neither 13 nor Burn did. And maybe for me, a lot of it is building characters, which is interesting because probably for the Sam Raimi films, the only character you're invested in is Ash, and that's the only one that you're supposed to be invested in. And Army of Darkness really almost
just
doesn't
a
belong
Bruce
in here.
Showcase.
It is not really. They're not really going for horror, but you know what? The stop motion animation, the quippy jokes. I'm somebody who owned Bubba Hotep on DVD, so you know what? It doesn't bother me. And
Bruce Campbell is a king, absolutely. Like, yeah.
So that's where that I think is where 10 minutes in, I was like, oh, this is not going to be for me because you can tell where they're going. I appreciate the camera homages and everybody needs to be able to do their own thing. But I also thought Evil Dead Burn had 37 endings and each one got progressively less interesting to me. Places where it could have wrapped up. And had they maybe made a tight 90-minute movie, I would have been more forgiving. But
also there would have been less character stuff. It would have just been nasty.
Well, I didn't really think they had any character stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have, if they were going to have it be longer, they could have explored. You don't really, even the lore that they're trying to latch onto and build into, they don't do a good enough job for me to understand what they're trying to latch onto or build into. So we will be talking about House of the Dragon in a minute. I'm going to talk about a movie I saw that was great, but first I will give you your clue.
Yes.
How to explain a movie plot poorly. A bald guy uses an orphan in a publicity stunt. I'll let you ruminate on that while I talk about a movie I did love, and that is The Invite. This one came out at Sundance this year, got a limited release on June 26th, comes out wider this weekend, should be playing in most all markets. It is based on a 2021 Spanish film. It was a new script from Will McCormick and Rashida Jones, directed by Olivia Wilde. Really a four-hander here. Olivia Wilde and Seth Rogen are a long married couple who are kind of stuck in a rut. He comes home from work one night and finds out that she has invited their frisky upstairs neighbors, played by Penelope Cruz and Edward Norton, down for a dinner party and a gathering. And a lot ensues from there. You can kind of deduce a little bit of the twist of where they're going from the trailer, but I won't ruin that here. This movie sometimes is hysterical. Rogen is incredible. I don't know if he's ever been better applying his unique skill at one-liners and comedic timing to some of these sequences. Edward Norton, who is an actor that I often have mixed feelings about, delivers a monologue in here that's pretty incredible. Olivia Wilde and Penelope Cruz are great. Everyone gets kind of their own time here. A pretty tight hour and 47 minutes. Very funny at times, incredibly somber at times, a lot of pathos. This one's getting 2 thumbs up. I currently have it as my number 2 film of the year. It is the only other film besides Disclosure Day for which I have given 4.5 stars so far this year. There are just some line readings from Seth Rogen that will stick with me, that I laughed. And I was so grateful to have seen this after having seen Evil Dead Burn, just to go in a different way. I think July has the potential of being an incredibly great month because we have the Odyssey coming out, Spider-Man Brand New Day coming out. I'm going to see Moana a little bit later today, so you can look for a
good luck
written review on the site. I have mixed feelings. My wife, if there was a Disney character that's nearest and dearest to her heart, it's Pua.
Oh.
So I think she's excited to see. Do you want your hint?
I absolutely need the hint. Like, what?
The hint is the film is a musical.
A bald man.
A bald guy uses an orphan in a publicity stunt. It is a musical. It is a musical that has been adapted to film more than once. But this one that it's name checking is from 1982.
The only thing I can think of is, what's his name? Stromboli, like the dude that pedals Pinocchio. But that's not. No, I can't. Like, can you give me like a U hint? You already gave me one. And it's 1982, but
it's a little redheaded girl.
Annie?
Yep.
Okay, that might have given it away. Thank you for that. I've never seen any iteration of Annie.
Yeah, well, and the redheaded one wouldn't help for the remake, where
Jamie Foxx and
Annie, a child of color, but yeah,
okay.
Annie. Well, and if you've never seen it, Daddy Warbucks.
See, that's the thing. I'm starting to catch that these clues are not very subtle when they use words like orphan. So I should have thought Little Orphan Annie. Like, what has orphan in the title? I'll catch on. I'll get better. Yeah.
So we're going to end by talking about House of the Dragon, or as I like to call it, Rhaenyra's horrible, very bad, no good day.
Yes.
So I have to tell you, I read the book. I think I may have forgotten one thing, but when they started and Edmund surrenders and hands over Darren, I was like, the F, that's not how that went in the book. And I forgot the book is almost essentially just a collection of pretty straight linear history. You have very little dialogue and building the sequences. It's kind of like it's supposed to be told from the vantage point of people who lived during the era, who have a spotty memory, jotting down the history of the realm. And so once we got to the end, I was like, oh, they didn't make a major fundamental plot shift. They just were adding some color to make an episode. But the crux of Rhaenyra's time, she captures King's Landing and what her experience is being living her dream and being the queen, that is very much out of the book. And I thought it was incredibly brilliant. After 2 more action-packed episodes, this might have been one of my favorite episodes of the season or the series, just because you're just seeing it reminds me of that Mel Brooks, it's good to be the king. Not always. Not always.
Oh man. The characters are so much more engaging when we're dealing with the core conflict of the series. I love just that scene. The best performance I think that the actress who plays Alicent has given is in this episode, where she's dealing with her like disdain, but her care, and she's in that weird position of power where Rhaenyra needs her help, and just it's so funny because this is. We talked about how episodes 1 and 2 were supposed to be the end of season 2. If they started season 3 in this tone, I would be like, what happened to this show? It's so different. But like the music, the scoring is so intense and different. You're so in Rhaenyra's head with everything that's going on. And I loved it. And then they gave me Dan Fogler. I am a super fan of Dan Fogler. I'm like, what are you doing here?
I'm sure he's going to come back. Well, that was Rhaenyra's like one almost moment of success where she serves the rat dinner.
So good.
But yeah, it's a bad beat, but it kind of,
But it's the same.
I'm trying to think of what the movie. There's it reminded me of this movie where they're like, what happened? And the person replies darkly, "My dreams came true." Or our dreams true.
What happened to the American dream?
Yeah, what happened? Oh, that's right. Watchmen. I'm blanking. What happened to the American dream? It came true. And that's almost like Rhaenyra.
Yeah,
that was like the look on her face. Like, I have wanted this for so long. I've been building toward this. This is going to be great. Oh, I have no money. Oh, people have no food. Oh, listening to people ask for things and their petty problems,
Yeah,
that also made me feel. As somebody who's a fan of Watchmen, maybe it's just tapped into.
I don't have the
feel like
Dr.
Dr. Man. I'm tired of these.
I'm tired of these people.
Petty problems.
Like her on the. There's a lot of Watchmen photoshops that could be happening here, like her with like a night owl cowl and Alicent with like the comedian's mask on. Like
that is almost that would almost me like and she's like, I understand you don't like it. It's not a good job.
She's like, you're gonna have to be not yourself, and she's like, nah, I can be myself.
It's like you get excited when you're running for president and you're like, oh, this ain't it.
I know.
It's not all Bill Pullman giving a rousing speech before we blow aliens out of the sky.
I don't know what I expected. Yeah. No, but like I love it because I love it makes me this season is making me remember so much what actually kept me engaged in season 1. And it's particularly this idea that Rhaenyra badly wanted to be a peacetime queen that lived up to her father, but her father was a peacetime king, and like her sinking into this like war, it has corrupted oh man,
I just have to say, if you liked this, that's good. If you didn't like this, you may want to opt out of the series because they're going to have to follow the books, and there's a reason there's no Targaryens sitting the throne by the time. And can we reflect the new series that they're supposedly on development in is what people have asked for?
Jon Snow continuing.
No,
that's supposed to be in the works.
Yes, that is in the works, but that is not what people have been asking for. People have been asking if you're going to go back and do history. I want to see Robert's Rebellion, and that is supposedly what they are working on now. Is Robert's Rebellion and how we got, because by the time you pick up in Game of Thrones, Robert Baratheon is a shell of himself, and Ned's cool, but Ned is almost a cuck in the first season and then gets his head cut off. And I want to, you see flashbacks of battle Ned, and you're like,
and I want that actor. I want Elrond from Lord of the Rings to come back and play Ned.
Yeah. It just kind of reminds me of what happened with Star Wars, when when Return of the Jedi was over and they were talking about making more. They're like, George, let's keep going. We got the main 3. They're ready to go. And it's like, no, I'm going to go tell you a story that makes you fall in love with Anakin and his ill-fated romance with as a child. And we're like, this was not the story we were looking for, and it ended up even less exciting than we had thought it might be. And that feels like they kind of went that direction with Game of Thrones. I don't know what to make of the Jon Snow show. What would the?
I think they're just trying to do Game of Thrones season 9. I think they're trying to.
Don't get me wrong. I love Jon Snow, but he does not end in a spectacular place, and the realm doesn't end in a spectacular place. No. And I don't really need to see any more of King Bran. And
no, well, but see, that's the thing. Because so many shows that have ended
no
like
one has a better
badly.
story than Bran, though. Remember, if it
um,
goes back to just being like a road comedy with Kit Harington and Peter Dinklage, I might be down
yeah.
for that.
Well, no, I think it's going to be more of an overhaul than that because if I understand it correctly, this is the first show they're pitching that is not based on any source material George R. R. Martin wrote.
I know, but
I
isn't it
think
going to
they're
be kind of
Dexter
sad that,
resurrectioning it.
oh,
That's what I think they're doing. I think they're going to have Jon Snow come back.
But there are two options for that. There is Dexter New Blood, which, oh my god, and then there's Dexter Resurrection, which was like, hey, yeah, we were going to do something new, and we realized that was a colossal mistake. And you told us that this was almost an insult worse than the final season of our show, which you said what Dexter New Blood is bad.
Dexter New Blood is
Dexter
different.
New Blood, no.
You're like, no, I will die on this hill. It's the Dark Phoenix of television. Now you're considering it.
I'm considering which I would rather rewatch. I mean, you could tell Dexter New Blood is bad because within 10 minutes of Dexter Resurrection, they jettison everything about it, almost as if they're hoping to purge it from your memory palette.
But see, that's what I mean, though, when I say Resurrection and not New Blood. I think,
yeah,
I think they're going to.
When you have a return and a continuation, all I'm saying is it can end up in one of two ways. And Dexter Resurrection is essentially just continuing the show as it used to be and setting it in a new location. Dexter New Blood is doing something different. I just feel bad for John, who had a terrible job being sent to the wall, rose to the rank of Lord Commander, was literally killed by his insufferable people, managed to rise from the dead, secured a new crown, only to end up back in the same terrible job that he thought he had given up by dying. So,
yeah.
But at least there's no walkers, right? Presumably.
Dude.
But also, if there's no walkers, what
are they guarding against?
Global warming?
Wildlings? Global warming.
The wall melting? Well, but didn't they solve they made peace with
he did, yeah, like
the wall, so
yeah. I don't know, dude.
Literally, what are they? They were
the ending of Game of Thrones.
The wall was to be a bastion. Now, if you're selling me on him ending up not staying there and going back to like Winterfell,
did we talk about why George R. R. Martin has not finished his books? And the thing is,
being the last Targaryen. Well, I don't think he's ever going to finish the books now. And even
because how could
he's just come out and said things would be different? And like, yeah, prove it.
But but I don't think they're drastically different. I think he's just he would do a much better job of going to the same place.
I don't know. I think he saw the reaction to it and he's like,
uh-oh.
And maybe it wouldn't have worked.
Yep, and my passion is gone.
It's time to sacrifice Benioff and Weiss on the altar.
Well, no, oh gosh, because they were given so much opportunity to do better. They got a Star Wars deal. And they were told, hey, we'll extend season 8 and give you more time to work on it. And they refused. I have so many, my core conflict with Game of Thrones is as much as I like it, I've always had huge problems with it. And at a certain point in the show, I learned that the way that they write the scripts for the show is they each write half of it and then pass it to one another for review. And once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. Every once in a while, you'll watch an episode, and the first half is Shireen being burned alive, and the second half is Daenerys in an action-packed rampage freeing the free folk. And it's like...
That is true. That episode, I've never been able to put on a list of the best episodes, even though there are portions of it that are high points for Game of Thrones, but the burning Shireen, that's
and I know which writer wrote which part of the story. And you can see, when, every episode, I always watch the making of the episode after with the HBO thing. And back then, just watching the writers talk about it, you get a thing about what each writer likes about the show. And it was right then, Shireen got burned in season 5, which is when they really started screwing with season 5. was like they had
it ends with him being killed.
Accordioning things.
Season 5 has some of the best episodes though when they're fighting the White Walkers. Hard Home is in season 5.
Yeah, the show is still great, I think, through season 6.
Well, season 6 is
off the books,
top to bottom, a masterpiece. But it's a great what if. So I'm not as down on the final 2 seasons as some. This is kind of to me,
no,
this
it's
is
really the last 3 episodes.
This is the Lost argument. This is the Dawson's Creek argument. If Dawson's Creek ended with the season 4 finale, it would have been one of the greatest shows of all time. You can miss me with any other debates on that. They didn't know what they were doing in 5 and 6. And famously, Kevin Williamson came back and wrote an ending for the finale in 6, but the current contemporary showrunner at that time said it didn't feel right to her, and she changed the ending, and I think that's why it sucks. But Lost, season 4 ends, the finale is we have to go back. An incredible reversal time period, but they spent the off season telling people that the island was never purgatory and it was stupid if you thought it was purgatory, and that's not what it's going to be. And you go through 2 meandering seasons and have the Man in Black and Jacob talking, and he describes it as the cork between heaven and hell. And I hate to tell you, Damon Lindelof, but that is purgatory. And then that finale, and you're like,
people just lie.
You could have had the greatest show of all time, and instead it just ends up okay. There are moments, like there are a couple episodes. The one with Dragon Attack on the Road in season 7 is pretty incredible. I actually think the first 3 of season 8 are pretty good. The second episode where it's kind of Brienne centric before they have the big fight, and I liked the epic battle for Winterfell when they're fighting. But then you kind of go scorched earth, and the people you've been rooting for, Daenerys burns all the people, and the final episodes are underwhelming, I guess, is the kindest way to put it. And so, it's a mixed bag, but like there isn't a moment that I don't listen to the original piece of music from that Winterfell battle and feel hyped up all over again. They wrote a beautiful original piece of music that is like top shelf from Game of Thrones scores. And I thought that battle was cool. It was a little dark.
To me, like as far as how it looks and how it's being made, I 100% agree with you. I like what's going on, but when I think too much about what the characters are doing and which character is having what ending to what,
but there are a lot of shows that kind of jack themselves in the end, where you go past a point in time where you could have conceivably been the greatest of all shows. There are very few shows that are like even Breaking Bad to me. While I think there are some masterful moments in the final season, I actually think it peaks a little bit earlier. I never loved that show as much as others. Yeah, when they blow up
Gus.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, probably the hottest of takes.
I love the whole show, but yeah.
I thought Gus was a better character than Walter White. I liked Gus more.
Dude, I love. I mean,
it's not just Giancarlo Esposito, but I liked. But I mean, it's hard when you're trying to come up with an ending. There are very few shows where you can say like the last season was
like the best,
phenomenal, or the best. Even The Wire, where I think season 5 is fine, their best season is probably inarguably season 4. And that's one short of where they end up finishing.
Yeah I think with television, I think that's always going to be the case, because I think no matter what happens, when you make your best season ever, you have to try to continue. Like you can't it would be so hard to walk away with that long form storytelling kind of thing. Like it's I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. But if Breaking Bad ended
I think what also hurt Game of Thrones, honestly, though, is you had gotten it on a pretty regular schedule when you had to wait an eternity for 7 and then another eternity for 8. And you were coming off of like the high of season 6 is banger after banger. There isn't a bad, like if you were going to make a top 10, it's always hard for me not to include at least 4 out of season 6. You know, so you have Battle of the Bastards, the finale where she just blows everyone up is incredible. Jon Snow's resurrection, even though you know it's happening, is incredible. Daenerys, the way that she takes out the Dothraki and takes command there is incredible. That's also, I believe, where you get the Hodor's backstory, which you can't, you know, is incredibly emotional. You can't. I mean, it was like banger after banger, and that's part of me wonders.
And it built up so much good faith in these writers that they're like, this is the first season where we have no book. They split book 3 into seasons 3 and 4, and then in season 5 they crammed book 4 and 5 into one. And it's like, what are you guys doing? And then they got to season 6, and it's like, oh, they can do it. Wow. And then season 7, okay, hey, Game of Thrones, hey. And then season 8, hey, oh, cool. What? No. Like,
all I can say is we may be watching the peak of House of the Dragon right now, because if they're going to have to follow the story, it's going to get bleaker.
No, but if whoever this director is that did that, episode 2 and episode 3 has such a throttle creatively on what works in like 2 totally different ways. They just use that director.
Well, and they might be a little unleashed knowing exactly how many episodes they have left and what they can do. Because I think that may have been what hampered a little bit of a meandering season 2 is they hadn't yet decided how many more episodes, and they were dealing with the strikes and what they wanted to do, and money and everything didn't exactly come together. So, you know, maybe they just needed a more finite ending. I'm looking for who directed. Who directed episode 3 was Claire Kilner. Let's see. And that is the same person that did episode 2. And somebody else did the premiere. But I do wonder if it was like the premiere would have been the finale of the season 2, and they would have picked up with where episode 2 does. Because you're right, like what we got in 3 is great, but I don't know that they would have done that as a premiere. That would have been
yeah. People would have been like, "What?
Yeah,
you just made a totally different show."
Well,
Dan Fogler's here. I can't get over that. I was like, "What? And that's always maybe the credit. I wasn't even surprised that he was there. I was like, did that credit just say Dan Fogler?
Well, and I like one of the TV podcasts I watched. They were like, all I could think is, did you run out of British character actors?
Right. Like, I'm so happy. He's gonna be one of my favorite characters, just because I don't know why. I just really like Dan Fogler. Like, they tried, his career started, they were trying to bill him as like a knockoff Jack Black, with Balls of Fury and stuff like that. And then he kind of took that humor and he kind of did his own set. Like, all of his cameos in the Goldberg is my favorite thing about that show. His work in the Fantastic Beast movies, as messed up as they are, love that stuff. And then like Take Me Home Tonight. Do you remember that from like 2010? Yeah, like I don't know. I'll have to think about it more, but just like I've really liked every time I've seen Dan Fogler show up in something. He's always like a bright spot in it. And especially in such a messed up, twisted scene, his entrance was perfect because he's like, yeah, I deserve this. Yeah. Like, good job. Like,
well, we'll see where it goes from here. I think this season's supposed to be 8 episodes, so we are probably
okay. Is it ending with season 3?
No, it's supposed to be 4 seasons. 4 seasons. What I thought.
Okay.
Cool. Which means you won't have outright bleakness here. Yeah, so season 3 is supposed to be 8, and I think it was supposed to be 8 more in season 4. So we're almost this week will be like the halfway point, and we'll see how it goes from there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, that'll do it for us this week. We'll be back at some point soon talking the Odyssey, which drops this next week. Probably one of the most hotly anticipated films of the year.
My bar is so low for the Odyssey, and I don't get. You can miss me with all the internet crap. People are stupid, but to me, this is so far kind of outside the. I mean, this is a guy who pulled off Batman and like The Prestige in like wildly different tones, like with like Memento, keeping a very strong voice. So I feel like it's going to be good, but if there was any movie that he could make that was going to be a miss, it's adapting somebody else's work so you have something to compare it to, and then it being super fantasy and Greek myths, and like I'm just completely holding my reservations.
Maybe you've spent some time with Christopher Nolan's son, because I enjoyed the story today where he was talking about when he was writing the script for the Odyssey, he hid his Oscars because it was too much pressure, and his son asked him where his Oscars were, and he told him why, and his son said, "But you didn't win an Oscar for writing."
Oh,
like
oh.
But nevertheless, we will see how Christopher Nolan does.
I have to hide my Oscars. Get the fuck out of
here. Until then, we will see you guys at the movies, but not Evil Dead.